right, so here I am on Instagram, and I follow Alec Sulkin, and I'm sitting next to him right now, and as you know, Alec, on Instagram, you can see what people like, if they like certain things, and I'm looking at these college kids funneling beers through their rear ends, and on Barstool Sports, and you click like. You liked it.
Always.
So you physically like it. Now, I liked it too, but then I said, do I really like this? And do I realize that people also think that I like it? You know.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah?
I'm okay with, hitching my wagon to Barstool Sports at this point. I think that they've proven themselves pretty funny, and I think they're going to be here for a while. So more and more kids are funneling out of each other's asses, it seems like, these days.
Well, we always wonder what's going to shock us next. And
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, it feels like, I was thinking about it the other day, we probably see 50 to 100 little sort of 7-second videos of somebody like wiping out ridiculously or falling on a rope swing. Or
don't you think those videos end 30 seconds too soon, where you just need to see the next 30 seconds? Like, do they get up? Do they peel themselves off the bark of that tree? Or
I think that's where our imagination goes, and probably a lot of them don't get up, but I think the reason we keep watching those videos is because we don't have to see them not get up. There's an element of non-reality to it.
Well, Alex Sulkin, from New England, so you're going to obviously like the whole Barstool idea. We're a special breed of people here, where our senses of humor are a little bit more twisted and whatever else, and then you go and dominate in Hollywood, writing and with the Family Guy and Ted 2, that whole thing. And how much of Boston is who you are in terms of your writing, and is that what you're kind of known for out there? Is it,
Well, there's so many writers from the Boston area, as you know. I think that there's a particular strain. I mean, I'm sure you can trace it all the way back to Boston being some kind of, as ridiculous as it seems today, some sort of like intellectual center of this country, and that just sort of, it radiates outward. There are so many schools here. I mean, the colleges, private high schools, good schools, and I think kids just come out of this town. And a lot of it has to do with the sports. Mm-hmm. They get warped and tortured, I mean, especially us growing up.
Right.
We had just enough victory with the Larry Birds and things, but we're so tortured by the Red Sox and the Patriots for years and years and years. And I think that affects your worldview.
You bring up a great point that I never thought of, because my kids know nothing but championships. And it's like they're
crazy.
Spoiled brats to the point of, it doesn't matter to them one way or the other. The Super Bowl is supposed to include the Patriots. The playoffs and it would be odd if one of the teams didn't make the playoffs. And we are a product of all of our experiences with sports. What the hell are they going to turn into? Like, are they entitled and all that?
It's very scary. Yes, I think that if you mix entitlement into the sort of stew that is the Boston area kid or sports fan, that's a scary thing, and you can already see it. And part of you likes it and wants to embrace it and feels like, say hello to the bad guy a little bit. Like, now we're on top, so
right.
Screw all of you. But I don't know. I worry for when after Tom Brady retires, what the reality that's going to set in with a lot of these Pats fans, myself included.
Well, you just hear the ridiculousness of Garoppolo would be better right now on the Patriots, and you shake your head, and almost to the point where logic is out the door, and where we're lost without real life experiences. I mean, the Patriots have spoiled us. I mean, and that came out of the blue. You remember Schaefer Stadium, and were we even in the NFL? I know we played NFL games, but it was like
most notable for a record-setting defeat to the Chicago Bears.
Oh.
That was sort of one of my early sports memories.
Well, that's what happens when the night before your entire team does coke and drugs out in New Orleans, before Super Bowl. Like
it was the 80s.
Yeah, that was what they did.
I like to believe the Bears were doing it too. They were just a better football team anyway.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
Willie Gault was quite the speed demon.
Speedster.
How did he do that? And Refrigerator Perry is like Karen Carpenter compared to guys now. And I mean, Vince Wilfork, like he was known for being a home appliance. That's how big he was, but he really wasn't compared to like guys now.
No, it was a different time, and the fridge, was a novelty item then. But he was good, and he was massive, and he was pretty athletic, and I believe he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl where Walter Payton did not.
I was just gonna say that was the big controversy of that game in terms of Chicago Bears lore, because Peyton took that one to his grave.
Yep.
And, and I don't know how that, I mean, that is kind of shitty that they would not allow him to get in. But on the other hand, I mean, but they were up by a good amount at that point, right? So I was going to say it had something to do with maybe strategic, planning, but no. They should have just let him run it.
They should have let him run it in.
Yeah, but hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I mean, we are a product of our our demons, you and I, in terms of the Red Sox and the Bruins, and not as much the Celtics, like you said, but being out in L.A., it became this thing now where there is this culture. Boston, is got this reputation, and we call the show Massholes because literally that arrogance wears on people pretty thin, and like we're hated and loved at the same time. But like we go, and Mincy, the other guy on the show here, he's a North Shore kid, grew up in Newburyport, and acts like he's a some sort of gangster thug, when he's out around the rest of the country, like hey, we're the Patriots, and suck this,
right?
And we're universally hated.
We are, but you know what? You know who else is universally hated, except in their town, is kind of the Yankees, right? I mean, so they're known as the Empire for a reason, but being from Boston, you know this full well, and believe me, I would have said none of this before 2004.
Right.
But being from Boston, you know full well that it's the ultimate show of respect to loathe another team and to dread them, and that's what people around the country feel about the Patriots is. They hate us. They constantly try to find reasons that we're winning that that explain it, but they don't want to play us. And they all say like Tom Brady is the greatest, but I hate him. And that's that's a certain form of respect.
We miss the sports was once a time of it was like wrestling. The Detroit Pistons came in. You could literally. Robert Parrish could smash Bill Laimbeer in the face with his forearm and not get thrown out of the game.
Right.
It was a
the
technical
refs kind of
foul.
understood it.
Right. And the game was magical back then. With the Celtics and Lakers and those guys all retired with respect for one another. Bird and Magic loved one another. I think that, they just appreciated the rivalry of like literally going into the Garden, it's 100 degrees and coming out with black eyes and bloody noses. Now, even the NFL, the way they treat players who celebrate, and it's like, look, if a guy wants to, celebrate in the end zone and like look like an ass, he should be able to do that because then he's going to get his ass whooped, and the next play, and then that's part of the game. Like
or the next time those teams meet,
right?
Yeah, it was
that's
a thing.
Fun.
Yeah, that was the thing with pitchers and people they would bean a game later, or the next time they came to town, and it was part of the game.
And you see Ortiz like making friends with Yankees, and you want to. Throw up in your mouth.
I know, but geez, Ortiz gets a pass for all he did for us. Come on.
Yeah. Well, now you're getting a little.
He gets a pass.
You're getting a little soft.
Well, we are. That's the thing. We've been made soft.
That's
and
right.
And look,
I'm
this championship
I'm
stuff.
trying to emote my self-loathing on you because I feel the same way. I love Jeter. Yeah. I love Mariano Rivera, and that's like saying, Lucifer's not that bad.
I know.
And
there was a time when we could have never said that.
I hate Chuck Knobloch, and I still do. But that's because I don't know him. And he's not out there. And actually, you know what? I do another podcast with Rohan Marley, right? And the first time I met Rohan in his house, I walk in, and who is sitting on his couch but Ray Lewis? And I said, boy. I fucking hate you, Ray. And he laughed, and we became good friends.
That's
great. It was and I kind of went back to that whole thing, like, I love to hate you. Like, it was a exciting week when the Ravens were coming and you were mouthing off and we wanted to just knock your head off.
Right.
And I guess it becomes, well, like, when do we stop? When do we draw the line, like, as human beings? Like, because now I can't even bring up Ray Lewis's name in Boston and people just call him a murderer and all this, and I get pissed off because he's my friend.
Right.
And, like, I'm like, dude, relax. Like, it's over. You
Right,
know, I mean,
right,
he's not playing anymore.
I know.
You know?
I know. We reached that point with a lot of people. I feel like even Peyton Manning towards the end, I had to sort of begrudgingly say, like, okay, this guy, he can be one of the best.
He
That's
won me over on
fine.
SNL.
Well, yeah, he was always very funny on
He
SNL.
was funny on SNL, and that was like, you know what, this
He's
guy's
a
a
human.
real guy.
He's a human. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So I think if that can, I mean, again, back in 2003, 2004, I couldn't have hated anyone more than Peyton, and would just, that snowy playoff game when Ty Law intercepted him like 2 or 3 times. That was just.
But
my
did you
peak.
like even going back? You're pretty level-headed enough. You probably did. You
Not really.
hated him. You hated the uniform, as Jerry Seinfeld says, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you probably you didn't wish him dead in a car crash. I don't
No,
think.
no.
But there
no,
are
no.
people like that.
There are a couple
that
come to mind. Yeah, that sort of. I mean, through the years, the Lambier, you already mentioned him, and he never really had a redemption. Even Isaiah. I mean, that guy kind of
carries a lot of anger.
He proved himself afterwards to be sort of not great at being a GM. Sure.
I lost $100 bet to my 5-year-old son at the time because I said he was Isaiah Thomas's son, Isaiah Thomas on the Celtics.
Right.
Because there was no possible way. I didn't do my research.
Right.
But I'm like, there's no way there's an Isaiah Thomas in the NBA who's short like that, and they're not related.
No way.
And my son's like, no, they're not. They're not related. And I said $100. And then I had to pay him because that's what you have to teach your son not to do is make stupid bets. Like
Sure. Yeah, I was waiting for the lesson there. Betting your 5-year-old $100.
How is he not related to?
I know, that's crazy.
But now he's a Laker, right?
He's a Laker, and
you're a Laker fan. You're all dressed up in your Laker garb.
Oh boy,
I'm
no.
kidding. You got the
no. Not. I'm sort of I don't care about the Lakers really so much anymore.
Yeah.
What in the '80s, I hated them, but then grew to respect them with that whole journey with Magic and Bird and all that stuff, and now they're just sort of they're a curio. When I first got to LA in 1999, it was like when Kobe and Shaq were just getting there. It was actually kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And to watch that team do well was, I didn't feel the same kind of anger that I did towards like Kurt Rambis and Michael Cooper and Michael Thompson.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did MC the unveiling of Magic statue in front of the Staples Center.
Really?
And when I was doing work with the NBA, and I'm going the whole time, and I go back on the old VHS tapes to watch that whole thing.
Sure.
And I go, I remember thinking in my head, like, they couldn't find somebody else around here to do this. Like, I don't know how I got picked to do it.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. But Magic was a fantastic, one quick funny Magic story is that he gave, like, I always saved his butt because he never would show up to rehearsals or whatever, and then he's like, oh, Chuck, he gave me like a stack of Magic Johnson movie theater passes, like an inch thick, right?
I thought you were going to say rookie cards. But no, movie theater passes.
So,
yeah.
Magic Johnson Cinemas, and I was like, thanks, Magic, but I'm like, I feel bad. I'm not going to go to Magic Johnson Cinemas. I live in Boston. So I gave them away to all the kids. And then the last one I turn over, and it says, also good at Regal Cinemas. And
you go around and recollect them?
No, they're gone. Mincy got the same thing, and he to this day goes to the movies for free with his family. To this day, and I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
I can't believe I gave up a lifetime of free. He still had, it's amazing.
Bringing a similar story, not sports related, but New England related. My grandfather was good friends with the guy who founded Legal Seafood here in Boston, and so my grandfather had a card. Back when Legal Seafood was like mobbed all the time, he had a card signed by the owner that said, "Please seat Mr. Kaplan right away." And so we used to always, on Sundays, should we go down to Legal Seafood? Just because he wanted to walk in front of everybody and hand them that card.
Just sit down and then leave.
Right, that's it. We've taken a table.
That is amazing. And do you still have that?
No, I wish I did. Boy, that would be awesome. I'm sure it's like a corporate entity now.
Well, you go into an airport, you go to Logan, and the bar's always filled, and you just, you show it to that guy from, Minneapolis who's sitting there with his briefcase saying, get the fuck up.
Right.
I got a card here that
Excuse
says,
me, do you have one of these?
Yeah, or move down, give me your seat.
Right.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are, you want them to be passed down so you can leave them to your kids.
I
and
know.
Stuff like that.
It might be in his wallet, in his coffin right now, as grim as that is to say. Could be.
Jeez.
We should have rifled through that shit.
I know. Well, it's not too late.
Yeah,
That
I
doesn't
guess you're right.
decompose
All
as
right,
quickly.
let's take a trip.
Yeah. So, Family Guy, a massive, massive success. How long does it? I mean, the ideas keep coming and flowing, and how many times can you go down certain routes, in your head, or
Well, we have a really large and great staff of writers. So we have literally 18 writers on the show. So, and we have 20 episodes per season. So you figure if everybody can think of one good story,
Right.
if we have these breaks and take some time to think of 5 story ideas, and we just hope that everybody has one, or maybe somebody has two,
Yep,
and
right.
it keeps working out.
And you have the license to be a little bit more outside reality because of the animation portion of it.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
you can kind of you're not worrying about budgets in your head of sets and where to go and that kind of thing.
No,
So,
which is good. I mean, of course, animation has its own budget concerns in terms of just paying a bunch of animators to, draw and draw and draw and draw. But you're right, and that we can set an episode in Paris or on the moon or somewhere, and we don't have to really worry about either building a big set or going on location, which is nice.
So how long has it been now since it started?
Well, it started in 1999, unbelievably.
Okay.
So we're 19 years in. There were a couple of breaks early on when the show was canceled, and then it was brought back.
Yep.
Because the fans were, so loyal.
And the idea of it being over these, a lot has happened in the world, since then, and our attitudes now, where, let's face it, we can't take a joke, a lot of us nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how has that affected? I mean, because I would guess just with the animation license, you don't have a physical person saying something where it's you're going to put Peter Griffin on the cover of Time magazine saying how sexually inappropriate he is or whatever. Right? I mean, but you must get that kind of sort of feedback. And
well, it's funny. I think a couple of things are working in our favor that way. One, we're a cartoon, so I think people just tend to take an instant step back and say this is not real, so relax. And also, Family Guy has a reputation for kind of doing comedy that's out on the edge of appropriate and sometimes crossing a line. And so I think in a way we've sort of been grandfathered in by our own fans.
Yeah.
Who oddly, most of the fans now are not the millennial snowflakes, but they're older. They're almost their parents.
Right.
They've been watching the show for so long. And so they kind of know what the show's all about. And I think when they show the show to their kids or to younger people, it's sort of passed along with this is what Family Guy does, so don't get too offended. They'll offend everybody, so don't worry about it. That being said, of course, we always have battles with the standards and the censors and things like that about things we can and can't say. And I mean, a recent example, which it was crazy to me, is Brian, in an episode that's coming up, Brian becomes famous for doing something, and he's at an autograph signing session, and we wanted to have him sign on a woman's butt cheek. And so standards just kept saying no matter how high we raised the pants or how much we made the sort of underwear cover her butt cheek, they were just we can't have Brian doing this. And then in an episode that was literally next, we have one of our characters mainlining heroin and inserting the needle and plunging it in, and he says, a little of the Sorkin genius juice, and puts it in his arm. And that was fine. Never got a note about that. Nothing. He slaps his arm, ties it off, inserts heroin and plunges, but somehow signing a butt cheek was not okay.
Jesus, man. The logic, behind that, you just wonder. And you probably don't go, well, and how far do you fight these things? Do you? Or
well,
do you?
With some of them we do. As an example, we have a joke that's supposed to be coming up where we have the joke is Casey Affleck is sexually assaulting a minion.
Okay.
And so he says to the minion, like,
Based on a true story.
based
by
on
the
a
way,
true story,
right.
sadly.
Yeah.
He says to the minion, hey, so you like working for a bad guy, huh? Well, like, come on, like, you know what I want you to touch, and then the minion says banana, which is the only thing they can say. It's a big fight with our standards and legal department, and they don't even know why. The whole thing just makes them like Casey Affleck has been accused of this kind of
Sure.
behavior,
Yeah.
and minions do work for a bad guy, and the only thing they can say is banana, so it all kind of like fits, but they're just like, we don't like this, and we can't exactly say why, but we don't think we're going to let you do it. So I wouldn't expect to see that one on the air.
Yeah,
That's
and-
only for your fans.
And if it's connected with, could it be, with a movie deal that Casey Affleck has, where they're trying to protect his brand too?
Well,
or
I would
something
think
like
more
that, or-
more likely would be the Minions side.
Oh, right, yeah, right, yeah.
Whatever's going on there, that feels like a bigger kind of franchise that maybe somebody would be trying to protect.
Who's the Minions agent?
I don't. Oh, the Minions agent. I think I was going to say.
you started to think about that, and I go,
was
geez,
trying
did
to
I
because
just?
I was trying to think what studio produces Minions, and I think it might be DreamWorks, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
so. There's so much that you probably have to be taking into consideration now, or maybe you don't. Like, I think probably the refreshing thing about talking with creative people is when they're just like, you know what, we don't give a fuck. We just don't. Like, it is.
Well, the writers don't. That's for sure, which is a good thing. And I'm certainly one of them, so I really don't. But then there's an extra level where, the writers will work all day to come up with a bunch of jokes for a certain area. They'll come and they'll pitch them at the end of the day to the rest of the room, and based on how much we laugh, basically, we'll pick what we want to do. And they don't care if it's over the line or what the jokes are necessarily. And then it kind of comes to where, as a showrunner, I have to look at it and say, well, I don't know, this might not work with standards, and we had trouble in the past when we had Stewie with a cigarette or whatever the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have to kind of make a judgment call, like, do I want to fight this for the next 4 months? And that's what ends up happening. It's just a series of back and forth phone calls where you say, like, we'll try and cut this, we'll try and cut this down, we'll make you see less of this, and we have Stewie not actually inhaling, he's just holding a cigarette, and maybe it's not lit. Like, eventually you come up with something that everyone's like okay with.
And you also wrote for the Oscars too, right? One time when Seth hosted.
That's right.
And so that must have just been like, why my bother even being here? Like, because everything is going to get turned down.
Right.
I would guess, and
Right.
then, is there that game night, like, all right, he's going to drop something like
Well, no, the
Ricky Gervais style or something like that?
Writing for the Oscars was, that was a strange, surreal experience. It was fun, working with Seth and trying to come up with some jokes that we thought people would like. But then the night itself, you picture this glamorous kind of event, and myself and 5 of the other writers were literally stuck in a windowless room that looked like it could have been in an elementary school in any basement in this country. We were just in there with one little TV monitor, kind of watching it all happen.
In a tux?
In a tux. And
Yeah.
some of us were half tuxed or the T-shirt or whatever, and just watching this Oscars kind of bomb. And we're just stuck in this room, nothing we can do about it. And then every few minutes, somebody Hugh Jackman, followed by costume people, would burst into the room, quickly change and be changed, and then run out. So it was just a strange night.
Well, to be honest with you, nowadays, I don't know how you feel. It just is so tiring now with with the political statements and the grandstanding and it just doesn't, for fantasy reasons, when people are done working for their week and they just want to sit and watch this stupid show, and then they get dosed with the whole thing of real life, and it's
Right.
I don't feel sorry for you. You have 3 Ferraris and 2 Lamborghinis.
Right.
This is where that Hollywood bubble comes into play. Do they not realize that some people just get annoyed with that?
I think they do. And here's the thing, obviously this year we're talking about the Me Too movement and women coming forward and grabbing the moment and seizing their power and all that kind of stuff. And obviously you'd be an asshole to say you're not all for that.
Sure.
So and I'm all for that.
But I think people were all for it forever.
Right.
And it was like, I think people who look at it now and go, all of a sudden it's a big deal. It's always been the case there.
Right.
And everyone turned their nose and looked away.
Right.
But guess what? We've not been raping people for a long time
Right.
here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And it's like, all of a sudden now this is a big deal. Like, guess what? It wasn't, we weren't doing this in 1984 too.
No, I agree. Believe me, I agree. And I just think that it's a thing where they feel like they've been. It's like with your wife. The biggest complaint, at least from my wife, certainly, is that she feels unheard or unseen. Mm-hmm. Like both of those things really rattle her in a way that I can't even comprehend. And I think that you must.
Is she in the business, your wife?
Well, she was. She ran comedy at NBC for many years and now has left the business and has opened a series of meditation studios that are doing great, and she loves that.
Wow,
so
that's cool.
It's been a great change for her. But I'm sure, especially in your line of work and just where you're from, we're from a time and a place, honestly, where men are kind of treated special. It's like we're sort of lifted up, and here we are on being recorded or doing a podcast, and it's not your wife who's doing it, and it's not my wife who's doing it, and so in a way, like, that seems normal to us because this is what we've been doing for many, many years. But I'm sure that they have many things they want to say all the time. I'm sure my wife or your wife, if somebody came over and interviewed them for a podcast, they could talk for 48 hours straight. And I think there's a lot of that. It's like steam being released in Hollywood right now by this women's Me Too movement. So much steam is coming out now. And I think that it does piss off some people, like you say, around the country who are just like, come on, we're not all assholes. We're not all out there committing crimes and raping people or pressuring people or altering your job because we're men and you're women. Most people are not doing that. But there are just enough stories where everybody's bursting out now. And it's interesting because it's obviously for a good cause, but then there's like a side of it that can swing back towards like McCarthyism, where it's like, now we're looking for, oh my God, so-and-so tweeted this 8 years ago. Well, he hates women. It's like, well, no, it was one thing. And like, the thing that gets me constantly is I keep coming back to Dustin Hoffman, where obviously he's been shamed. I guess he said some inappropriate things on a movie set in like 1985.
Right.
And he's being called out for that now, more than 30 years later. He didn't rape anyone. He didn't physically assault anyone. He didn't embezzle money from, his producers. He said some inappropriate things, on the set.
But and who hasn't? And I'll be the first to say, and I had this conversation yesterday with somebody, is that sometimes I go for the joke first to shock people
Absolutely.
I'm with. And just to say something completely inoffensive. I'm not that way, but it's like I want people to, like, the joke of me saying it inoffensive, an offensive thing is like, that's what catches them off guard. And of course, that's not what I'm like really in my heart where I'm saying it at Thanksgiving to my family or whatever. But it's everybody has done that, and then it becomes an issue of like you said, it's the the witch hunt of like you said this, you said no. Look, I mean, we're not going to like go 25 years from now and remove Dustin Hoffman's movies from any cloud service like they're doing with General Lee stuff, like ripping statues down. Because I mean, look, whatever they were back 100 years ago is what they were. I mean, and we've evolved, and I think that it is different now. And if you behave like you have to behave different now than you did 20 years ago. But to mesh the decades together is unreasonable and not.
It's unreasonable. It's unfair, and I think then. To continue up with the Dustin Hoffman thing, I feel like John Oliver interviewed him somewhere after that and really went after him about this thing. And I just feel like that sucks too because, and I like John Oliver. I think he's really funny. But I think once John Oliver goes after you, it signals to all the people who enjoy John Oliver that we should all be going after Dustin Hoffman. And that is like the John Oliver people, the people that follow John Oliver, who are sort of like descendants of the Jon Stewart people. They're generally, pretty smart. but they have this hive mind
Mm-hmm.
where like whatever Jon Stewart or John Oliver tells them, that's the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And so now Dustin Hoffman is evil. And this pisses me off. Like even this year at the Oscars, when they were announcing the Best Actor category and Best Actress and supporting on both sides, they did these really great montages of like winners from the past and little snippets from their movies. And you just can't go through Best Actor without having Dustin Hoffman there, who's won it twice, I believe, and been nominated probably 4 or 5 times, and has had some of the greatest performances in cinema history, whether it's Tootsie or Kramer versus Kramer or The Graduate or Midnight Cowboy. All these things he's been amazing in, and they just wiped it out. So like you said, pulling out the Robert E. Lee statue, they wiped out Dustin Hoffman. I don't think it's right. I think that people like to go after Woody Allen in the same way for something that happened a really long time ago with someone he's still in a relationship with, and they all are attacking him. But then I watch a movie like Manhattan or Annie Hall, and I'm sitting there saying, am I supposed to dislike this guy? Like this is genius work. Like how there's got to be a way to separate what they do on screen with what they do off screen, as long as they're not murderers, or raping people or assaulting people. And I just think that, it's tricky because some woman screamed at me about Woody Allen, and then I said to her, well, okay, so you don't enjoy the music of Michael Jackson, right? And she's like, I don't see what that has to do with anything. I'm like, well, if you don't like Woody Allen, you can't like Michael Jackson for the same reason. And I'm like, so none of your friends would say you'd like Michael, and it just became a whole shit show.
And it becomes
an embarrassing dinner.
It becomes this thing of like, then the only person that we can like is Jesus, I guess.
I know.
And you're Jewish. I don't even know if like.
Well, he seems like an okay guy.
But I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody has their thing, and whatever. You and I could go out on your beautiful deck here and grill up some burgers and hot dogs, and we are the enemy to somebody.
Right.
Like the PETA or to some enemy.
Yep.
And somebody's offensive is another person's Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to like what you're saying and like the Woody Allen, like that's a great example. And I think I fell prey to that myself. It's just I had an opinion in my head. It was just Woody Allen pedophile.
Right.
And I didn't even. That's just the connection that I made in my head.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't really think about, okay, you're right. He's it was not that uncommon. When did he meet this girl
I mean, like...
My point is in the 60s, and going back to the 50s, people would marry an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old,
right.
And even, I don't know.
It's from a different time, and I think people are just mad at the way it all went down, and poor Mia Farrow, and it's like marriages break up and people fall in love with other people, and they're together 30 years later. Like, what more do you want from them?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in you coming here, because we're on beautiful Cape Cod right now.
Love it.
And you look relaxed, and it's your
tired.
respite.
You probably mean tired, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was maybe I misunderstood the the relaxation there, but this gives you a little bit of a respite. I mean, you have a beautiful view here of the ocean, and I'm sort of
you're local.
Getting relaxed.
You're here.
Well, I'm even more. I feel like I'm on vacation right now. Like,
I love it here.
Spot.
I mean, as a kid, I grew up coming to the Cape. My grandparents, both sets, had places on the Cape in different spots. One in North Falmouth, right around the corner from here, and the other in New Seabury, I think. And I don't have to tell you what it's like. You're down here all the time. When you come here, it's like your blood pressure goes down. It's like the much cooler, more relaxed Hamptons.
I would say that that's not true for me, because when I do come here, I'm not coming here for vacation. I'm coming to pick my son up from work or get errands done, and the traffic is insane on the bridges.
That's
and so,
right.
If I did just come, and I appreciate the spare key you're going to give me so I can come here and relax.
Just to check on the place.
Just, hey, that water isn't going to fish itself.
That's right.
Do you fish at all? I mean, do you partake in a lot of the sports?
We have a little Boston whaler, and we just kind of cruise around, but I don't fish. I know there's a lot of, I think, what is it, striped bass, black sea bass around here.
Yep.
My neighbor's a huge fisherman and goes out and just like brings me filleted fish, which is great.
So in the summertime, do you partake in the whole clam bakes and
Love all that.
Yeah,
Love all
lobster
that
rolls.
stuff. Yes.
You have your favorite. You must, because all right, in L.A. people go, Alec, I'm going out to Boston. Where do I go to get? Do you have any recommendations for a good? Where can I go to? What seafood place can I go to where I can sit anywhere I want? And do you have a card that I can use?
Right.
I mean, but you must be asked for that information.
Sure. Well, the lobster trap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right near here, and
that's what you need that card for.
I know that's the new legal seafood for sure. It's great. It's right out here it's in what is it in Pocasset?
Right there. Yeah.
And that place is so great. Once we figured out where that was, which was almost right away, amazing lobster roll, and they have a ton more there. But that's the best lobster roll that I've had in a long time.
There's one in what's that place in New Seabury? That small. I've been to that. It's a tiny bar with pictures. And you go into New Seabury. The bar is smaller than like your little alcove here with your dining room, which is very helpful for people who are listening.
Right.
So I'm maybe like 15 feet by 15 feet. They have lobster rolls that are the size of official NFL footballs.
Wow.
Like that's how big they are. And I'm not kidding.
Right.
Like two people would split it and they would still have take home.
Right.
The wall is, you got to go to this place. The wall is covered with pictures like Polaroids of, talk about the Me Too movement. All the women have their shirts up, 20 years old or 80.
That's hilarious.
Okay, and it says on the wall, like, no cell phones. Like, you're not allowed to bring a cell phone. So I walked in, and I was checking my cell phone. They kicked me out, and they said, you can't come back tonight. And
Wow.
no second chance, no read the sign. And I kind of looked at it, and I thought it was a joke. And they just booted me out. And it is for real in there. But you got to go.
The Cape Nazi.
What the heck was this place?
Yeah.
It's pretty popular.
Okay,
I'll
check
look it
that
up
out.
before I leave. But it's in New Seabury. I mean, you got to go in there.
There's that clam shack at the end of the road in Falmouth there, out by the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
If you, it's like that right you can take across from the baseball field, and it goes down the road there out to the edge.
Good.
It's amazing. I mean, I don't know if fried clams have gold in them. They're so expensive here. It's ridiculous how expensive they are. But they're good.
I have them once a year because I like the idea of them.
Oh yeah.
I have one or two, but they give you way too many, and then I'm sick for the rest of the night.
Oh,
and I go, I can't do this again. Now I love steamers, I love lobster roll, I love fish, but like the fried clam is like they give you. You've seen the plates
It's
are
awesome.
like mounds.
It's awesome.
You can eat that whole thing.
I mean, I can give it a pretty good run for its money. It's really good. I mean, the fried foods, I can break that shit down easy.
You use good metabolism.
Well, no, not at all. But I'm just Jewish, so like all the shitty foods, just are like a garbage disposal of gross foods.
And that doesn't is that a DNA thing? It doesn't come back to haunt you?
No, it does, but
yeah.
it's in a manageable way. Like I wouldn't be sick all night. I'd just like have diarrhea for 3 days, which I can manage.
I've just all of a sudden got the onset of dairy intolerance or lactose intolerance.
Sure.
I don't know where that came from. All of a sudden.
That can be brutal. Yeah, I sort of had the same thing, and it's all almond milk now.
And what is another great spot around here? The Whistle Stop ice cream. Right in Monument Beach.
Oh yeah.
So it's all homemade ice cream.
Yep.
And so my mom, who lives around here, my sister will come into town. I'll take my kids, and we'll go there. And an interesting thing about that place is that there's no public restrooms near there.
Which you found
It's a very dangerous situation,
right?
Because you eat and then it's like, and my kids know, they're like, "Oh, Dad's gone,"
Yeah.
And
for me, it's the Somerset Creamery, which is just a stone's throw away here.
Oh,
that's awesome.
haven't even been there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really?
Got to go there.
Wow.
Look at Cape Cod magazine. It's always way high up there.
So, and listen to us. We're not talking about the bars and the places to get. I mean, is this a product of age? Are we?
Oh, right. We're
do you
talking
go
about
out,
food.
right? Yeah. Like, what are our favorite ice cream places?
There are a couple places near here that are all right. I'm right near the Courtyard.
Oh, you're right. That's Miller there. What's his name from the Bruins?
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot. It's a big Bruins hotspot.
Yeah. Yep. That's fun.
So that can be a good place. I mean, that place, the Parrot, is right next to
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Liam McGuire's in Falmouth. Downtown.
No, I don't go to Falmouth that often.
Yeah, that's not bad.
This is like an Uber conversation.
I know.
Like, where do you go? We're from around here.
I know,
get,
I know.
New hot spots. I mean, and so do you travel a lot? Go to different parts of the country with me? Because Family Guy in L.A. I mean, there's no set to go to. I mean,
No, but we're pretty much tied into our offices there in L.A. So, I mean, I travel with my wife and we go out of the out of the country sometimes, but I don't get like all over the country that much.
And when you do your movies, because you did Ted and Ted 2, and then is it 1,000 Ways to Die? Is that was it 1,000 or a million?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, it's fine.
And those take place on. I mean, fortunately for Ted and Ted 2,
Yeah,
that's like a
that
vacation.
was awesome.
Was that amazing?
That was.
And by the way, hanging out with Brady and Wahlberg, and
not too shabby.
That's like
My buddy
Boston
Tom Brady.
summer. Yeah, I see the picture of you and Tom Brady over there.
Yeah, there it is. As I like to say to people looking at the picture, Tom's the one on the right.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you don't confuse us.
No, and you actually are better looking than him, especially in that picture. Yeah, I think he's.
He's lost it there.
Look, go back to the whole sexual harassment thing when he was on Saturday Night Live.
That was great.
When it's okay to get away with it. You just have to be good looking,
Absolutely.
And he's goes up and grabs a woman's boob, and it's not a big deal. And then Fred Armisen does it, and it's like all the bells and whistles go off and stuff. And
I know.
but like my wife doesn't find him attractive, right?
That's
so
crazy.
I find him attractive.
Me too.
And so when we have this conversation, she always brings up if he didn't play football and you just saw him walking down the street, what would you think?
Handsome as hell.
I can't answer that question because I don't know.
Yeah, he's a leader of men.
Right, because I feel like if I'm walking down the street, I feel like I'm handsome as hell too. But
good for you.
Thank you.
What's your secret? I need to figure that out.
You're looking at the secret.
There you go.
Is there something I'm not?
Oh no,
here?
no. How are you so delusional?
Okay. Oh, yeah. But you wonder how much of what he does makes him. Because guys,
obviously,
right? I mean,
obviously, if he was just walking down the street and we'd never seen him before, you might think that's a tall, handsome dude, but you wouldn't give him like this godlike quality that he has for me, certainly. But yeah, I mean, I would say without bias that he's probably the best looking person that's ever lived.
That's a pretty good statement right there.
Yeah.
Now, again with sports. How old are you?
I'm 45.
45. So I'm 40, 45, 46, whatever the fuck I am. I don't forget.
Sounds like 46.
So right, exactly. Yeah. Right. So I had an issue. I remember when talking about NBA stuff. I was in LeBron James' first year, and I was in a room where it was just me and LeBron James, and there happened to be a LeBron James shirt that I had and I asked him to sign it, and he said no, and I was like, I'm 35 fucking years old, and you just said, and I was like, you should be calling me sir and mister and all that kind of stuff, and like, and you didn't, and then it just sort of opens your eyes to being like, at what age do we not put shirts on like Tom Brady and be like, hey, Mr. Brady, when he's 10 years younger than us, and like all that. Like, do you feel weird about that?
Luckily with Tom, we're like almost contemporaries.
Almost,
so there's
almost
still a little bit of that. But yes, I get that. It's difficult to see, all of your sports heroes now are like 20 years younger than we are, which is crazy.
That is weird.
But I think that it just comes down to the person. Like LeBron he's kind of universally known to be sort of a jackass. So that doesn't surprise me about
exactly.
him. But I think most players still would enjoy, that it brings out the kid in all of us,
You know what is a depressing moment for me in life when and there was no chance I was playing anything professionally, but when it was off the table because of my age, that I was like,
yeah,
I can't, like it was always sort of in the cards potentially, never realistically, but in my head, I was still the age of a lot of players in the pros and the NBA and Major League Baseball, whatever. But then it was all of a sudden you're like, even if I wanted to do this today, I couldn't because I'm too old.
Yeah.
And they would never.
I know.
Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, I did. Well, I mean, I never felt like I could have at all played anything.
Me neither.
But I agree with you that clock was always in your head of like, okay, I'd now be the oldest person in this sport, or I'd now, it's like I'm at 34. You can't try out for anything at 34. That's way past.
And you go through life going like, I'm too young for everything, and then now all of a sudden I'm too old for it.
Right.
Like, you must have felt that in Hollywood. You go out and now I think the being young is the thing. Like, you want to be like, they like the young millennials, the attitude and all that stuff. It's like a different viewpoint on things. But at one point, you must have been like, geez, I'm looked at like I'm too naive and too young, and then all of a sudden
It switches.
You're on the other side of the pendulum has swung.
Especially in LA, time goes by. It seems like faster out there. I remember.
Well, they're 3 hours behind.
That's
So,
right. That's
know,
probably it.
so-
But when I got out there in '99, I just remembered, even 3, 4, 5 months into being there, I was constantly meeting people who were newer to town than I was. And so I just was aware instantly of this phenomenon that there are always these waves crashing up on the beach in LA, and people are coming and staying and staying and staying. And you're not the new kid in town for very long. Like, it's just, if anything, I think LA kind of puts a premium on young talent. They're looking for it. Like, if you can do something and you're young,
right.
good.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think that we reached this. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. Like, I'm debating a big decision in life, and I don't know if I should use my head or my heart. And I go, I think you reach a point where you've mixed those two up, that it just becomes wisdom, and the wisdom is the answer of your heart and your gut together making the decision.
Right.
And it's not like choosing one over the other. And so in this reflective sort of wrapping things up kind of thing, because I'm telling you, this is my studio now away from
Right.
Sure. So
Sure.
We'll do this. I'm gonna make sure I get you over the summer and
Right.
say, how did those jokes go?
Well, if you want
sure.
if you want to invite any Celtic legends down here to come for an interview,
we'll
that's
have
fine by me.
Matt Light will come down. Rob
Great.
Minkovich.
Love it. Love it.
Dave Mintz. I mean, geez, a
All
Jewish
the
guy
legends.
from Newburyport. You got to
All
meet
the
him.
legends.
But so you get to this point, bucket list stuff. Like professionally, I think it's a relative thing when I look at, like, wow, it's Alec Sulkin. He's done this, that. I mean, he must just be, completely thrilled about everything he's doing. But then, like, is there stuff that you want to do that you feel unfulfilled with?
Sure. I mean, I think always, I just made the mistake of watching this documentary on HBO about Arthur Miller. And if you want to feel like shit as a writer, just watch that. I mean, for the shit that guy wrote and how much all the time and how fast, it's crazy. The quality, forget it. So it's like, I feel like, I want to write a book. I want to write another movie. I want to write another television show. And I just don't know which one it's going to be. And, you keep these ideas sort of in our phones, which is the equivalent of Larry David's notebook today. So I hope that, I can just motivate myself to do a lot of the stuff that I've had ideas for, and I would encourage those listening to do the same.
So when you get an idea, are you the type that finds yourself like forcing it and then you get frustrated, like you're like, I got to come up with something, or when it comes in, you just ride the wave and okay, I can sit down and bang this out on my computer? And
well,
all
usually it's just like a fragment of something that will come as an idea, and then I'll just keep coming back to it. And if I can add more and more to it, then I realize that, that's something that I should work on. And if I keep coming back to it and there's really nothing else coming, then I say, like, maybe this was just an idea fragment that's destined to sort of float through space.
And I'll just say this, like, we'll take this full circle. For what you see on Barstool Sports and those videos, that must inspire you in terms of, like, the absurd and the joke and the humor. I mean, you must see that kind of stuff and be like, bang, this is my next, there's a joke here, there's an irony here, there's sort of
right.
And that must just fly into your notebook on your phone,
Well, yes. I mean, at a place like Barstool, I think more than that, what it does is just like it inspires me that the next generation of kids still want to laugh. They still are what they're amused by is a little different. But I see why it's amusing. That's hence the likes.
Right, right.
And sometimes it'll make me laugh very hard as well. And it's just nice to know that there's still like kind of a wave of sense of humor and like kind of snarky assholes that are coming up.
And do you, like I asked you this, I'm going to ask again just so I can make sure, you know, when you, what haven't you liked that you, I mean, as an example, you probably can't think of anything to come to mind that you go, you know, purposely, like if I cringe at something where somebody, I look like that, I'm like, they just died in that.
Right.
I don't necessarily hit like, although there's not another button that go, I still watched it and I was like interested by it and
but
captivated.
I just can't say that.
Like,
Well,
you know, I
feel-
didn't like Schindler's List.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
But you were,
But you would like a post about it.
no, well, you only have one choice, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
and then I'm not going to go in the comments and be like, it was deeply profound and, you know, it made me think, or, you know, but it's either like or not
Nothing.
hit it, you know? But
Yeah, no, I mean, I find it the same way. Like, I follow a lot of Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox Instagram accounts, and it'll, like, even just today, like, Kyrie to have minor surgery on his knee. Like, am I supposed to like that post? Like, I don't like that.
that's where it
not
does
good.
get confusing when somebody posts, like, after 50 years of, I'm so sorry to see my beloved husband pass away, and you're like, do I hit like on
I know.
this?
We
Like, I want to
actually-
support you.
We did exactly that on Family Guy.
Really?
Yeah, we did that with like somebody posting that their aunt had just died, and then Peter Griffin likes this. You know, like, what are you supposed to do?
You know, I know it does leave you, you know, wondering,
Yeah.
but and that's how we should leave this podcast.
All right,
now. So
sure.
Alec Sulkin, you know, Family Guy, movies that we love, Ted and Ted 2, Thunder Buddies. I mean,
Thunder Buddies.
You know, that's the great song, and that was your thing, right?
Yeah.
You wrote that.
Yep, that little song in particular, absolutely.
Jeez, that is. You got to get a Boston band to perform it.
That's
you
right.
know,
That'd be a
like-
good idea.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. I'll make that happen.
Or put
for
it
you.
with bleeps at like Fenway or something.
Alec Sulkin. Find it on iTunes. It is Massholes. We'll see you next week. Send it.